Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are. My name is Catherine Mattice. I'm the founder and CEO of Civility Partners. We are a consulting firm focused on building positive, thriving work environments, and we love toxic work environments. That's our sweet spot. We go into environments where there's toxic behavior and culture and help turn that around. Today, I have with me someone where it is evening. It's morning for me, evening for her. I have Lena Thompson. Hi, Lena. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you finally.
Oh, well, thank you. And we're going to talk about the great resignation and moving into great re-engagement. I love that. And just to tell you a little about Lena, she was a corporate professional with over 15 years of experience. She's done lots of keynotes on purpose, confidence, decision making, personal development. She's an award-winning entrepreneur. So super excited to speak with you. So let's jump in. Tell me a little bit about, we all know why people left. How do we continue to keep people? Because we still, there's still some remnants of people leaving. They have the opportunity to go somewhere else in the world via Zoom, so they're not stuck to their own geography. So what do we need to be doing right now to keep employees engaged?
I think we really need to dig deeper as to why people are really leaving. So I think, I shared with you a little bit of my personal journey where when I was in a job, especially the last few years, I felt a lot of disconnect. And even though I had a really successful, thriving career, amazing holiday, kids in private schools, like on the outside, on the paper, it was perfect. But there was such a disconnect. There was so much emptiness, unfulfillment within me that I just didn't know what to do with myself. And I also mentioned to you that I discovered personal development, which actually enabled me to pause and slow down and actually take a real good look at my life, at my career, and also within myself, and really ask myself, am I in the right path? Is this what I want to be living my life like? Is that what I want my life like to be in 10, 15, 20 years? And just thinking about it terrified me. There was nothing wrong with it, but it was complete misalignment. So what's been happening over the last few years is that I think a lot of people started going through what I was going 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
That lockdown has really enabled us to pause, because
Mm-hmm.
before we couldn't pause. We were just too busy. Like, I mean, I'm in London, right? So just outside. And it's like you get on a commute, you take your kids to school, you get on a commute, you get to work, you work, you run home, you take the kids home, you feed them, you do homework. It's like
Yeah,
insane.
it's like you're describing my life and everyone else.
Exactly, right? So you don't have time
Yeah,
to pause. And then in the evening, you numb yourself with wine and Netflix. That's it.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
it's like eat, sleep, repeat. So when this pandemic happens, we actually kind of got forced to slow down and really, figure out, what is it actually am I doing with my life? Am I on my path? Am I feeling fulfilled? And I think realize that our jobs don't define us.
Mm-hmm.
That's, the paycheck is not fulfilling, that it's not, that we're actually human beings, we're not human doings.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, from speaking to so many people, especially over the last couple of years, people started really trying to figure out what is it they want to do with their life. So they started opening business, maybe on a side with a job, or looking for opportunities elsewhere. Because initially, when this kind of, I guess, an awakening or whatever you want to call it happened within me, I was very restless. I was like, okay, I'm going to go get the job
Mm-hmm.
because they pay better. I'm going to be happy there. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
if I'll do this, I'll be happy there. So now I think we kind of split our society into people who are either leaving completely without plan B, like quitting, starting businesses, or they're going to be job hopping,
Yeah.
trying to find something better, right? Of course, there are going to be some people who are so in love with the jobs, and I also know people like that, but that's not a majority. So my personal belief is that in order for companies, for leaders to really engage, to motivate, not even motivate, to inspire their people, they have to start understanding what lies beneath the surface of each and every person,
Yeah.
right? It's not what they're thinking, it's not about what they're doing, but it's actually who are they being? What kind of energy they bring to their work? How do they show up for themselves? How do they show up for the other people, and really dig and develop that potential within them?
Yeah, I like that. We're not human doings, we're human beings. And by the way, we have lots of people joining us from all over the world. So, all of
Amazing.
you listening in, please do ask questions along the way, and we will be happy to answer those. Um, I know there was a lot of research too about people leaving because the environment was toxic, essentially. So, that I guess you're talking about a deeper meaning where people are kind of waking up and realizing I don't want to do this every day. I feel like I'm on a in a rat race. But then add in that if an environment's toxic, it makes it really easy to go, yeah, I definitely don't want to do this. Versus if someone's thinking, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore, but I also really like the people I work with and my job. And so maybe I can find a different kind of a balance. So I feel like organizations definitely need to be looking at their culture too, as they're, fostering your people and giving them what they need and treating them as human beings, obviously, as a cultural thing. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm rambling. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, absolutely. And what I know without a shadow of the doubt is that we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our reality is just mirrors our inner world. So however we're feeling, whatever we're thinking, that's what we're going to create in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to toxic environments, it's always easy to kind of think, well, this person is just being nasty. This person is being promoted over me. This person making more money than me. When my manager leaves, I'll be happy. When I get this job, is being happy. And that's the whole thing. Then comes to personal development. Is like we have to start taking responsibility for our own selves, for our own
Mm-hmm.
feelings, thoughts, and actions, behaviors, and realize that the world is only mirroring to us who we are being. So this change has got to start within us first,
Yes, that
right?
makes
Because I bet you, I'll give you a good example actually, because I lived in South Africa for many years and I had two friends there. Well, I still have them, and they're living very close to each other. My one friend, their house was constantly broken into. Like they couldn't wait to get out of the country. They
mm-hmm.
were like, oh my gosh, South Africa, crime, this and this, how can we leave the country? We're constantly being broken into. My other friend lives up the road. She was so in love with South Africa. She was like, crime? What crime? Right? Two people in the same environments. It's everything that goes on in here. So if you go to work and you obsess about things you don't like, all the promotions that you're being overlooked at, the salary that that you're not feeling worth, I don't know, you're not feeling worthy, you're not feeling seen, heard, recognized, that's exactly what you're going to get.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. We have some questions coming in, and that's a good reminder for all of us that we have to take accountability for whatever we can control. And that could be the way we feel, our behaviors. You might not be able to control the bully or the leader that bugs you, but you can control how you react. All right. So we've got some good questions. So Deepa's asking, how do we handle employees not excited about returning to the office? But then they're also feeling disconnected because they're working from home. So they want it all. They want their cake and they want to eat it too. So what do you think? How do we manage that?
I think we really need to start connecting with people, as I've mentioned already, on a deeper level, not just giving them tasks to do because it's part of the job, but really understand how they're feeling. What tasks do they love doing?
Mm-hmm.
What do they look forward to? What do they love the most about the job? Because, as it's actually according to Gallup research that I've read somewhere, people who focus on their strength are 6 times more likely to be engaged and also much more productive, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we all have our natural strength. We all have our Einsteins within us.
Mm-hmm.
But the only reason we're not Einsteins in our own way is because the strengths are suppressed within us. And
Mm-hmm.
it can be taken back to our childhood. Like how maybe you like to play piano or sing and somebody criticized you. They told you
Mm-hmm.
you're not good enough. You've got to get real, practical, responsible. So you tossed that aside and you started building on things that are not even natural to you just because somebody else told you to do them. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we've been doing our whole lives, right? So there's so many layers, so much conditioning, so much societal pressure. And another reason is our strength, sometimes so natural to us that we just don't see them, we don't recognize them. And therefore, I think, well, I believe strongly that should be job of the leaders to help their people to
Yeah.
discover their unique gifts, their unique potential, and leverage that in a workplace.
Yeah.
because we all have them, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes it doesn't link directly to this job we are assigned to do. So it's just spending more time with people, understanding their feelings rather than what they're thinking.
Yeah, we do Strengths Finder around here and at Civility Partners, and also DISC. And what's been cool about those is I remember with Strengths Finders realizing why certain people do things that bug me, and like namely my ex-husband who used to work in our office. But I remember our Strengths Finder coach was like, this will never happen. He couldn't do it to save his life. And I'm like, okay, now you have empathy for that instead of being annoyed. And when we've done DISC, also finding like, hey, we're all kind of in the right seats based on our DISC. So that's been neat. So yeah, it is about managers and leaders having time to find the strengths in their team and leaning on those strengths and making sure others know that what their strengths are, so that you can pass work accordingly. I love that. Okay, we got more questions. Danny says, senior moment. I sat here thinking, I've seen someone else in Lena's home. Then I realized it's a background. I need more coffee. Okay, let's see. I think you're trying to better yourself in your current job does not align with your goals. Then it's time to move on. Do you have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, or a 15-year plan? Where do you see yourself at those times? So it's more of a comment. Someone agreeing with you. Yes, we agree with you. Someone else says your home is a dream home. Sorry, I just try to make sure I get. Kristen's got a good question. How do you start personal development on yourself? Class, books, any suggestions on where to start?
I think everybody's journey is very unique and very personal and individual. So I'm happy to share my journey, a little bit of that, and see how that resonates. So a few years ago, I was working in an office that required me to drive 5 hours there and back, and I was like at my wit's end because it wasn't even a nice environment to work in. And someone recommended to me to listen to this gentleman. He's actually a neuroscientist. I mentioned to you, Catherine, Dr. Joe Dispenza. And for a while, I was like, oh, not another self-help. I don't need self-help. I know what I'm doing. I'm strong. I can push through it. And I remember one day I got stuck in this traffic and I was like, 2 more minutes of this music. I'm just literally going to jump out of my car. And I thought, okay, fine. I'm just going to put this guy on. And within 5 minutes, I knew that's the message I've been waiting for, because he made me realize that I'm not a victim of my life. I have a choice. Right. And I create my life, and I can create it either consciously or by default, unconsciously, running on autopilot. So listening to that really enabled me to start becoming more observant of my thoughts, of my feelings, of judgments, not even just of other people, but judging myself. It's so good sometimes to be this holding space and nurturing others. But the way we talk to ourselves, we'll never talk to our best friends because they will never talk to us again.
Yeah, we are the meanest to ourselves. That's for
right?
sure.
So slowly, step by step, I actually started listening more and more and more, and I started meditating. And then when Dr. Joe Dispenza came to UK, I attended his 7-day workshop in Brighton, where we literally were isolated. There were thousands of people, and we were isolated from the environment. And it was a lot of meditation, lots of science, a lot of quantum physics, and bridging that science and spirituality and working on your consciousness, working on your energy. Because the thing is, guys, nothing in our life will ever change until we change our energy, right? And energy and consciousness is the same thing. Consciousness is the input, energy is the output. So if you want to have your energy higher and achieve more, you've got to work on your self-awareness. You've got to work on your consciousness. So for me, reading books, and obviously with time, I got some spiritual mentors and coaches. And now it's it's daily work. It's working. It's a muscle, right? It's a muscle. You know how you go to the gym to build a 6-pack, to work out.
Yeah.
Working on your consciousness.
You gotta work your brain muscle and get it to train it.
Yeah.
And Kristen, I can share my story too. It was funny, before we went live, Lena and I were talking about, well, she made a comment that she found personal development. And I use that same phrase, kind of like some people say, I was going through a tough time and I found God. We found personal development, which a lot of the teachings are actually similar. I've noticed, like if you're in a religion, there's some sort of praying involved, which is what personal development teaches, that you got to put things out in the universe. There's a lot of real similarities in those worlds. I found it because I was sitting on an airplane next to someone who's in the world of personal development. His name is Greg Reid, Reid. He's here in San Diego where I live, so we're both flying home, and I ended up spending all this time in an airplane with him, and then he just kind of brought me into his world a little bit, and I started reading his books and others' books. So it's easy to start. There's tons of books out there, and then you'll start to find the voices that really resonate with you. One of my favorite books is called Be Extraordinary, and I can't remember who it's by. I reference it a lot. I need to go home and pull it off my bookshelf. But that particular book was really perfect for me in where I was at when I started really getting into it. So someone says to you, Kristen, I've been taking lots of free courses on LinkedIn. There are lots of things on LinkedIn. Absolutely. Okay. What other, I think lots of people are responding to Kristen. So it looks like a lot of people had some thoughts. Chris, what's the name of the book? The book that I was talking about was Be Extraordinary. Greg Reid's written several books. If you just look for his name, R-E-I-D is how you spell it. Oh, Brene Brown. She is another big one right now. All right. So I had some other questions.
I want to recommend another book that completely transformed my life, if that's okay. It's called The Habit of Breaking Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Okay. And that's, and it's what I love about it. It's even, for the skeptics or for logical, really rational people, it's really easy to understand because it's very easy to read. It's got a lot of backing up facts, like evidence, real life stories, and it also like very gently bridges science with spirituality. So you can get it on Audible. I can't recommend it enough. And it comes with meditation, so you can slowly even start practicing.
And what's the name of the book again?
The Habit of Breaking Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Okay. And there's all sorts of ideas of discipline is destiny. We got all sorts of things going. So that's awesome. So this is a good segue into culture, organizational culture, and talking about the role that plays. To preface that, part of my journey was also working with a mentor I had found through my professional association back in 2009. And she had a degree in positive psychology, which is similar in that it's positive psychologists are people who study happiness, resilience, a lot of the same types of things in personal development. And there is a book from that world called Positive Leadership by Kim Cameron. And that book is a lot of really clear action items for how to bring kind of positivity and personal development into your workplace. But so moving forward, how do organizations hone in on this? How can organizations lean into some of what you're talking about? What does that look like, from a practical standpoint or operational?
Yeah, I think it's like a kind of a two-way street. I don't know what the right term is, but basically, obviously, organizational culture is extremely important. But to give you an example, at one stage, I worked for a company who were ranked, I think, the 8th company in UK to work for. They were like the best. Mm-hmm. And for me, it just did not align with me at all. I left within a year, even though the benefits, the perks, everything, the food, the fresh food, everything was there. It just didn't really resonate with me. Mm-hmm. So, you can have the most amazing, incredible managers, supporting culture, all the perks, benefits, gym. But if the employees don't really know who they are, they're always going to be drifters. And the reason I'm saying drifters, because I was a drifter. I was a contractor. I couldn't even sustain a full-time job because I'd get bored. I'd get demotivated. I'm like, what else is there? What is on the other side? Oh, there is more money. Oh, there is better, whatever. You know what I mean? So I was jumping around. So yes, organizational culture is great. But the thing is, without investing in a personal, not a professional, but personal development of the people, I can tell you, we're going to be talking about the same issues, about the same problem, about the bullying, about the inequality for years and years to come. We're just going to be assigning different labels to them. Okay. Because the change always starts from inside. Because the leaders are reflection of the organization and the people reflection of the leaders. So I think for this real thriving culture to happen, the organization, of course, needs to invest in the organizational culture, but personal development is the key to success of any company.
I love how passionate you are. You've got me thinking, how can I bring personal development into the civility partners work that we do? I might need to change my company. That's how inspiring you are. You've definitely got me thinking. Let's see, someone's commenting on positive psychology looks at strengths, and traditional psychology looks at deficits. That's a good way to put it. Thank you, Danny, for sharing that. What if I was a leader of a 300 person company, how can what's my first step to say, I'm going to start injecting personal development into the things that we do around here as an organization? What is an example of how I might do that?
So, I mean, there is many ways of doing it. What I'm very passionate about is a framework called human design. Have you ever heard of human design?
I have not.
So earlier on, you mentioned discs. You mentioned disc strength finder, Myers-Briggs, right? Those are amazing tools to understand the strengths and the weaknesses of people.
Mm-hmm.
Human design built on that, but it adds a very essential element to it, and that's our unique energy.
Mm-hmm.
I remember what I said earlier, that in order to change anything within our lives, around us, we have to change our energy. So every single person have their own energetic strategy and how they show up, what they need to stay engaged, motivated, how they even make genetically, how they're wired to make decision is differently for each of us. And this system sheds a light on our energetic strategy. So
Mm-hmm.
when you actually understand how your people are genetically wired and the mechanics of how they're built, how they actually designed to operate, you can really understand those potentials within people. So what I also love about it is that it makes it very practical, because sometimes personal development can feel like wishy-washy. Well, like what? I just sit, meditate, like what I do,
Right.
So that really helps you to hone in into every single person. So this is just something really practical that I use in on me, like all the time within my clients. And another thing that I think is so crucial for us is to slow down. Like literally slowing down is the key to everything, because slowing down, actually what it does, it enables us to get out of this fight and flight, out of analytical minds, and tap into our subconscious minds, which processes 27 something thousand times more data than our analytical minds. So this is how we get this creative downloads, I guess, the solutions, the breakthroughs, this epiphanies, this aha moments. So I think companies should really understand, that the employees, as we mentioned earlier, they're not human doings, they're human beings, and encourage them to pause, especially when they face challenges, especially when they don't know what to do next. Pause, sit, contemplate. It's not a waste of time. It's the most productive thing people can do. So, there's different ways of looking at it, but slowing down is definitely understanding what the people feel, how they feel about the jobs, what lights them up, what are they excited, what are they passionate about, and then bringing actually systems into organizations that are designed around individuals. So that would be my answer.
I love this. I want to reach through the screen and hug you. I'm just sitting here smiling like, this lady is amazing. Okay, so someone's asking, is there some sort of checklist that could help managers develop a positive outlook within their team? So Deepa's asking about that analytical piece, because I know sometimes this stuff can feel a little abstract, but she's saying first-time managers might find it difficult to connect with employees, considering their full-time work plus their people manager responsibility. So any thoughts on how a new manager can dig into this? I would assume the first step is to pause, take a step back and get comfortable. But what do you think?
I think before we really develop people, we've got to look at ourselves first. That's the key number one. So therefore, I believe that all the changes must start at the top. It's the managers that have got to start taking radical responsibilities, ownership for their own thoughts, behavior, and actions. And I know emotional intelligence is spoken a lot about. So how do we actually become more emotionally intelligent? Pausing, meditating, because it's during the time of contemplation, of realizations, that you actually begin to understand who you are. You stop reacting. You stop being triggered. You stop being, blaming and feeling like you're a victim to circumstances. So when an employee challenges you, when they don't listen to you, when they don't perform, you go, hang on a second. What is it within me that's making them do that? What can
Yeah.
I tell you about me? Rather than go, hey, you don't do your work. What's going on? Right? And being reactive.
Yeah.
So you've got to start with the managers. You've got to develop your leaders. That's the first priority.
And, I'll add to that. Yes, you absolutely do. I'll add to that too. I had a client that actually, we had a mutual breakup because it was clear, I had given as much advice as I could give, and I was kind of at the end. There wasn't really much else I could do that I could see unless the leader made some changes in how he functioned. But one of the problems and one of the things I was often suggesting is that they were a billable hour type of a company, and manager. So the CEO was, it's crazy. He was billing, 120% and also leading the company, which doesn't make sense. I don't know how that's possible. Obviously, it's his company. He's going to put in a lot of effort and a lot of hours. But then he had these directors and managers who were essentially billing 90%, 95%, and that other 5% of their time was maybe, reading some sort of document from HR or something like that. And I would constantly talk to him about how he needed to reduce the required hours for the managers because of exactly what we're talking about. It's like maybe the kind of the individual contributors can be billing 90% of the time, but how are these people supposed to manage if they're also billing almost 100% of the time? And in fact, one of the managers she was always billing at like 104%. She had the most people underneath her, and people complained about working with her because she was short and didn't get back to them. And it's like, well, of course she is. She doesn't have time. So I think just all that to say that the people at the top have to recognize that managers have two jobs: managing work and managing people and their behaviors and their emotions. And so managers should be less productive in terms of the work output because they need to have time to coach and meet and talk to their employees. And I just always felt really strongly about that with that one particular client.
Exactly. And the manager's role, first of all, is to manage themselves.
Yeah.
And then manage the people. When I was one of the contracts I was working for governments, and I remember like my team lead actually was sitting next to me, and whenever I look, there's like an empty seat.
Mm-hmm.
So, like if I had problems, I just wanted to chat about something, whatever. It's like, he was just like never there. He was a lovely guy, but he was never available.
Yeah.
So, while leader's job is to lead, it's not to get involved in finances, coding. Like he was loved to code, and he would like always sit and code.
Yeah.
I'm like,
then you're not a leader. Be a coder. Go back to coding. Yeah.
Become a coder, But if you lead, you have to lead yourself first. You've got to lead your people. That's the key. That's it.
Yep. I'm with you. Danny, you have another comment about the flow, which is the balance of high control and high performance that's studied in sports, and it's not developed in organizations. And Danny, I wanted to give you a reference. There's a person here in San Diego. His name is Chris King. He owns a company called Status Flow. And so you might want to check him out because he is someone who's bringing that into organizations. So, all right. I think we are out of time actually here. I'm just trying to see if we have any other comments. People are really agreeing with you, Lena. You're really, you got a lot of fans here really saying thank you for your comments, and they're loving what you have to say. And I am as well. So hopefully we were talking about SHRM and their conference before we went live. Hopefully you'll be applying to speak at their conferences and coming, and we can meet and have a cup of coffee because I would love to hang out with you. I want to like link arms with you and hang out with you and your energy.
That would be amazing. For now, I'm speaking the one in San Diego, but it's all virtual. So we just can connect in the field, with our hearts and minds.
Okay, well, that's where I am. So if you ever make it over here, well, thank you again. How can people get a hold of you? Obviously, they can click on your LinkedIn profile here on this page. Any other places that they can reach out to you?
Probably LinkedIn is the best. I'm also on Instagram, but I think LinkedIn will be the best. It's like my home platform. So yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Kristen says, Lena is awesome. Does she have a website or a book? She says, go to LinkedIn. She's working on a book, right, Lena?
I don't know. It's not my priority. Maybe one day.
All right. Well, thanks all for tuning in. So glad I think we're all kicking off our day or night in a really positive mindset. So, Lena, I really appreciate that. A lot of things you said resonated with me probably more than you know. So thank you.
Thank you
And
so much,
thanks all.
Karen. Thanks,
Yeah. All right.
everyone. Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.